In 1967, I was a pretty young chap. I was not even 18 years old, I remember. A student at Karachi University. It was the martial law of Field Marshal Ayub Khan. And he was a terror. Anyone could be lifted up, taken away, jailed. After all, it was a military dictatorship. There was an event at Karachi University celebrating 10 years of General Ayub Khan's rule, and it was called the Decade of Reform, or Decade of Development, a decade. I just simply went into that auditorium where a whole lot of government supporters were sitting, and I went straight to the auditorium, to the head table, got hold of the microphone and ran away. So the sound system was working. I went out, locked the door and started addressing the auditorium from outside. Well, little did I realize that there are back doors to an auditorium, and soon about 50, 60 people were giving me a thrashing of my lifetime. I was on the floor, they were kicking me. And that is when a tall, broad, grizzly type of a guy pushed aside everyone, came to my rescue and pulled me out and gave me a tight slap on my head and says, "Tumhara dimag kharab ho gaya? Ye maulviyon se chakkar le rahe ho? They can kill you." But anyway, he dragged me to a coffee shop. I didn't know him. That man would later become a senator in Pakistan. He was a member of the National Assembly, he's still around. His name is Manzoor Gichki. I hope he's listening to this story. But what I didn't know at the time that he was a Baloch. Frankly, I'd never heard of the term Balochistan. I didn't know what a Baloch was or whether there were such people. All I knew is that a whole lot of working people in Karachi who were donkey cart drivers and cinema hall operators were called Makrani, which was an area in the south of Balochistan, and that's it. I had no clue. So this was my first interaction with a Baloch in my lifetime, and since that day, I have been an activist, along with tens of thousands of others who have fought for the rights of the Baloch people and for the independence of the country of Balochistan. Which means, now I have to explain to you why I call it a country of Balochistan. You see, on August 14, 1947, when Pakistan was declared as a country and India decided to be independent on the following day, August 15th, very few people in India or Pakistan, let alone Bangladesh, know that 3 days prior to that, Britain had given independence to another country. And this country was the Kalat state of Balochistan, larger than, I would say, France in territory, definitely more area than Italy, or I would say even Burma at that time. Huge tract of land that had been independent for over a thousand years, and only came under British occupation in 1839 or so. I might be off a few years here and there. It had nothing to do with Delhi. It had nothing to do with the Raj, which means Balochistan, like Nepal or Ceylon at that time, were directly connected with Whitehall in London and had separate treaties. So Balochistan, now look at the irony of this all, the Khan of Kalat hired who to negotiate for its independence? They paid Muhammad Ali Jinnah, that same Bombay lawyer who had earlier run away with his friend's daughter. I just throw that in to tell people who call him Qaid-e-Azam, that the guy was a pedophile. A 16-year-old girl was kidnapped by him, taken away, and not till 18 she got married. So the same man who, instead of working for his Bombay constituents, was working with the British to cut India into 3 pieces, was working for the country of Kalat and got independence for them through the Cripps Commission. And so on August 11, a country of Balochistan became independent. The New York Times, none other than that, in its news story on the front page, describes it as India, Pakistan, and Balochistan as the 3 countries that emerged out of this. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, by the way, took some money from the Khan of Kalat for his services. And you know what sort of a person he was? Oh, the great Qaid-e-Azam. He sat on a tarazu, a scale, and said, fill the other part with gold. So this thin, starving, super intellectual, anglicized voice, never went to college or university, sat on one side, put gold on the other, and when the scale was balanced, that 90 pounds of gold bullion was given to Muhammad Ali Jinnah as his legal fees. So what did Mr. Jinnah do? He called his sister, Fatma Jinnah. Fatu, come here. So Fatu came. You also sit over here. And as a concession to the Baloch, said, weigh her in silver. So Fatu, I think, Fatma Jinnah maybe must have weighed about 85 pounds. She took 85 pounds of silver, which Muhammad Ali Jinnah grabbed. And that is how Balochistan got paid for its independence to the Qaid-e-Azam, the great Muslim leader of India, who was selflessly working for the ordinary people of Hindustan to give them a country of their own. Now, he was selling us right, left, and center and enriching his pockets. That aside, we'll discuss Jinnah's financial dealings and how he robbed Pakistan of some other time. Thus, Balochistan was born. Balochistan had an embassy in Karachi and in New Delhi. It was an independent country the same way as Nepal or Sri Lanka today are, or Bhutan are. But, and this is where India is to be blamed, the leaders of Balochistan, Abdus Samad Achakzai, a member of the Congress elected from Quetta, along with Mir Hosplex Bizinger, who was chair of the lower house of the Balochistan Parliament, who had all voted for an independent Balochistan, went to Delhi and met with Maulana Azad, Jawaharlal Nehru, and guess who? Sir Krishna Menon, and said, we as Balochistan would like to join India, the Dominion of India, or the Republic of India, as one country. Guess what happened?